Hi, so this video is introducing the Element Project. So today is day one. Everyone will be assigned an element, and you are going to be conducting some research on that element for the entire month of January. This project is going to be due January 26th. The slides will be posted to Google Classroom. You'll be able to click around and click to any part of this video that was confusing or parts that you need to look at in depth. So you can use this slide as the index. Areas of research. So on the element that you were assigned, you will be conducting research on the following. So you're going to look into the history of that element, who discovered it, when, where, and how it was discovered. You're going to be looking into the properties, both physical and chemical, of your element. You're going to be looking into the uses, so how it has been used, both in the past and in the present. Some of these elements have had some very interesting past uses, so this category is going to be a fun one to research. And then you're going to be looking into the compounds. So after break, we're going to be starting our chemical reactions unit. So we're going to be talking about how atoms combine when they form molecules and compounds. So you're going to look into what compounds are created by your element and what are those uses for the compounds. And then you're going to look into the atomic structure. So looking at the atomic number, atomic mass, electron configuration, and isotopes, and where it's located on the periodic table. So knowing the group number, period number, and what family it belongs to. Any additional information will also be recorded. So anything that you found that was interesting during your research process about your element that is not covered in these five main topics will also be included. So we are going to be doing all of this research in our science notebooks. So your research must be recorded in the back of your composition notebook. Your notes must be in your own words using bullet points. Your notebook is required to have a works cited key showing which resource each bullet point comes from. Each bullet point must include the date that it was taken. Your notes must include all areas of research, and you can include images and other graphics as well in your notes. To make sure that everyone is following along with the research project, there will be 3 notebook checks where your progress will be recorded. We are going to set up our notebooks on Monday, and there will be an additional video for how to set up your notebook. Since we currently use notebooks in class, we will be setting up our notebooks a little bit differently than the other 6th grade classes. But it'll be pretty much the same, but that will be in the video on Monday. For your notebook, you will have a works cited key. So this works cited key will go in your notebook and you will have a color or symbol. You can use a highlighter to organize the sources that you've used for your research. So you are required to have 6 resources in total. At least one must be a book from the library, TMS, or public library. If it is being checked out from the public library, you just must get it approved by your teacher just to confirm that it will be useful in researching. You will be finding your citation on the web pages or websites. If you cannot find it on the websites, you will create it using mybib.com to cite your sources. Your sources will be compiled into page 1 of your research notebook where you will create a key for each resources. Ours will look just a little bit different because we're setting up our notebook differently, but that'll be in video number 2. It's really important that you're making your works cited key as you go along. You don't want to wait last minute to start this because it's just crucial to start it as you go. Okay? Instructions. So at the end of this research project, you're going to be doing a presentation. So you will be creating and giving a presentation about your element to the class. Since you are the only person in our class that has this element, you are essentially the expert, right? So your presentation will not have any words other than titles and pictures. The information in your presentation must be memorized. You are the expert. You will have had spent an entire month researching this element, so you got this. You will not be allowed to have any note cards, scripts, or papers with you while you're presenting. Your presentation will be around 3 to 5 minutes in length. Um, don't worry about this too much because by the end of the month, you will have spent so much time looking into your element that this should be, a pretty easy component. I believe in all of you and, you got this. Okay, and we'll do some practice presentations beforehand, so it isn't your first time fully presenting in class. So the planning calendar. Um, on our Element Project quick links, you will always have access to this planning calendar. Every Friday, you will have an independent work day, meaning you will have the entire class period to work on, your element project and research. During that class period, I will call you over to have a mini conference to check on your notebooks. Each notebook check should have, there's like a checkpoint of how many resources you should have. So by our first notebook check on January 9th, you should have 2 resources. Our second notebook check is January 16th. You should have 4 resources. And our third notebook check and final notebook check is January 23rd, and you should have all 6 resources completed. Um, so as you can see, these are the only 3 days in class you have to work on this project. So there is a bit of expectation that you are working on it at home, right? So make sure you're looking at this calendar. It will have important dates to follow. The project will be due the 26th, and that last week of January we will be conducting our presentations. Okay. Yeah. If you finish classwork early while we're doing other lessons, you can always work on your independent research if you finish classwork early. But I would not count on that and make sure that you are keeping up with this project at home. Okay, you'll have 3 notebook checks throughout the month. I'm going to be checking on your progress of your notes for each section and checking the number of resources you have used. During those days, you will have the entire period to work on your project besides, your conference with myself. And yeah, so you need to make sure that you're keeping up on these resources and keeping up on your research to earn these points for your notebook check. For using your resources. So since you are required to use multiple sources to complete your research project, you must have at least 6. One of these sources must be a book from TMS or the public library. We just ask that if you are using a book from TMS or the public library, that you are not holding the book for too long. We really want to try to keep, a maximum of one date, one day, or like, overnight, since there are a lot of 6th grade students working on these elements. So if you have, the book for Neon for the entire month, you're limiting your other classmates of getting their project done. So if it is being checked out from the public library, just make sure to check in with your teachers to make sure that it's appropriate source. And note that you may not use any other digital resources other than the ones that are provided on the school library website or provided by your teacher. So the main digital web sources that you'll be using are our school's databases. So Cavendish Square Digital is a great one. You will find plenty of information about your elements on this database, Worldbook Online as well, and Facts on File. So these are the 3 main databases that you will be using. In video number 2, I will go in depth on how to use these sources. These are the approved web pages. So no Wikipedia, no Google, no AI. The only sources that you are allowed to use are the ones that are shared in this video. Um, just please let me know if you are struggling to find, sources or materials, and I will be happy to provide or help you. But Web Elements, Chemical Elements, P-Table, Royal Society of Chemistry, Chemistry Explained, and Duxters. The importance of, using these sources provided is so that we have reputable sources and good information for when we're presenting, and so that we learn how to research, right? This is our first research project. So it's an important skill to have. Um, yeah. So, this is the rubric that every sixth grade science student will be graded with. So, about 80% of the grade is coming from your research notebook, and about 20% of the grade is coming from your presentation. So, a good portion of the grade is coming from that notebook. So, making sure that you have quality research, making sure that you have all of your sources from reliable places and that they're properly cited, making sure that your notes are neat, organized in your own words, and making sure that you made significant progress throughout those notebook checks is going to be really important. You will also get a free 16 points if you have, your project completed on time, your presentation is the full 30 minutes, you're doing your notebook checks, in time, they're not late. So this rubric, even though it is, graded as a 100-point test for this project, it is very student supportive and it is very generous. I think most students will do very well. And, there will be check-ins. So if your research is lacking, there will be plenty of time for me to step in and conference since you will have 3 conferences through this month with me. Okay. Sample presentation. So for this video, I'm not going to click through these presentations, but please use the slideshow to click the example. So each of these buttons shows an example of a project that would not do well, and then there's 2 examples of a project that would do well. So these are just the presentation slides that are, good and bad. There are also 2 videos provided on about giving your presentation. So the example that is thumbs down is a poor presentation, and the thumbs up is an example of a good presentation. These are both videos from a teacher who currently teaches here, and yeah, they're good examples of a good and a bad one. So, for this project, you can receive up to 5 extra credit points on this project. Some ideas are creating a 3D model, which has been very popular in the past. A lot of students typically will make this 3D model, sing a song or rap, write a poem, etc. So, the more creativity or effort you put in, the more extra credit points you will receive. Um, if you have an idea for an extra credit, you know, project or part of this project, please let me know and I will approve it. Um, any questions and answers? Let's take them. So for the extra credit opportunity, yes, there's 5 extra credit points that could, increase your grade by a lot. It's 5 raw points, so you can get 105 on this project. If you have an idea, you just need to come see me to get it approved. Some people have dressed up in the past. If you have a purposeful prop with explanation, just something that adds to your presentation, that is, takes effort and amount of time and shows care in your element. How many sources do you need? You need 6 total resources, so no AI. This project is learning how to research, so in 6th grade, you need to know, these foundational skills. And then until you know how to do those skills, then, you can use AI. One of those 6 sources does need to be a book, so think TMS Library or the public Tenafly Library. You do not need to buy a book, right? Please use the libraries. During the notebook checks, what are you checking for? So you have enough notes for where you should be at the point in the research project. So there will be a notebook check rubric so you can see what I will be checking. Each check-in, I'll be looking for a number of sources. So the first check-in, I'm looking for 2 sources. The second check-in, I'm looking for 4. And the third check-in, I'm looking for all 6 resources. And I'm also just looking to have a conversation to see how you're doing with the project. Okay, how are notebook checks graded? So they are out of 16 points of the 100 points towards your final project grade. So about 5 point something points per notebook check. So that does account, your final research notebook does account for 80% of the final project grade, including the notebook check grade. So meaning like this is a very research heavy grade, since that is the main skill that is being assessed. I can have no words on my PowerPoint. So you are allowed to have a periodic table square on your PowerPoint, and you are also allowed to have numbers. If there are images with a few words and they're on the allowed resources, just ask your teachers to see if it's approved. So it'll be approved on a case-by-case basis. The whole point of the presentation is to serve as an aid for as you're presenting, just to help remind you what the next parts are in your presentation. It's not meant to present for you. It's meant to serve as an aid, a visual aid in your presenting. Okay. That is our last question. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me. Video number 2 will be posted shortly. Thank you so much.